Let me guess, you were aiming for this, but you ended up with this. I feel your pain, and I am going to take that pain away for you in this tutorial. And what's really important to remember is this is a basic course shape. So if you can get this right at the start, then everything else will be much easier. And you can go on to create sheep's heads, fox heads, and this is a pear, so I've started with a ball and then I've extended it, and stay till the end because my top tip will ensure that the surface is perfectly smooth every single time. These two balls here, one is a pre-felted ball, a wool dryer ball, which is this one, and that one is the one that I've felted. So the only difference really that you can see is you've got that lovely smooth surface detail, but there's a little bit more movement in mine, which does make it easier to felt onto. So if you want to do baubles, Easter eggs, that kind of thing, then this does make it a little bit easier. But if you are using a pre-felted ball, then use a fine needle for the surface work. It makes it much easier than a coarse needle. But that's sort of what you're aiming for. Now I'm going to show you two methods, one very quickly, and then I'm going to take a little bit of time over the other one because I think it's really important that you get the technique right. And as I said, because this is the core basic shape of much of your needle felting projects, whether it's a ball, a cube, you know, this pear shape, mushroom, it doesn't matter. This is the technique you will be using regardless of shape. So the first thing I want to show you is really quickly, and I'll speed this up, is how to do it on, of course, the trusty barbecue skewer, which these have been done on, and that makes a great shape for a sheep's head. This one, slightly smaller hair. So these are really good basic shapes that you can create your animals with. So take a little bit of wool, split it down the middle because we're only going for a small ball here. And these are also great for acorns, for your spring garlands, you know, when you want to put the balls on with you, maybe your little animals, or you just want to create spring garlands full of lovely different coloured balls in all the pastel colours. This is an excellent way to do it. So you go to the barbecue skewer using carded wool. You can use wool top as well, doesn't matter. Firm needle, 38 I'm using here. If you use a fine needle, you will probably most definitely hit the stick and it will break. Wrap it round, pull it tight, and the aim is here, you get the air out. And this, you can needle felt a ball, I would say, in approximately 5 minutes using this method, the type of balls that you actually use for garlands. And you just keep moving that around. And you don't need to felt too much, just until it's nice and firm. And then you've got a little barrel on there, and you just keep turning that. And then you just start to shape it and felt around. It's super fast, really easy, complete game changer when it comes to needle felting the barbecue skewer. And you just keep going round, making sure that you're moving, you're not working in the same spot all the time because you will spoil the shape. You'll make indentations, it'll end up lumpy and flat in places. So keep it moving around, felt in the ends. And can you see how that ball shape is nicely developing now? And you just continue that way until it is completely felted and you are happy with it. And as I said, you can either use a core wool, which is just the middle of your project, for this shape, or if you're doing small shapes like this, I would just use the colour that you were going to use because you're not using very much wool at all. Or if you were going to use a core wool, you just continue in this manner till you're happy with the shape, and then you put a layer of the coloured wool on top before you take it off the stick and felt that on. And as you can see, that's coming along really, really nicely. And then you can finish the top surface. If you want a really perfectly smooth finish for this, then you can just go around with a finer needle. I've got a 40 triangle, I think this one is here, and I'm just doing little pokes. So this is a surface needle. You're not pushing through, you're just tapping the surface, and there you go. That's one ball done on the barbecue skewer. But now I'm going to show you a really, really easy method if you want to make bigger balls quickly. So again, I've got my carded wool here. I'm going to leave it at that length because I'm going to make something bigger. And then what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do, and this is what will save you all the time, tie a knot in it. Pull it tight, tie another one. And depending on how big the ball is going to be, tie another. And already what you've done is you've created straight away a firm centre that won't need any needle felting. So you're not going to have a squishy centre no matter what happens. And then we start to wrap the wool around those knots. So I'm going to wrap one way, keeping that nice and firm, and just start to felt that in and continue to wrap. And it feels a little bit unstable at the moment. That's fine, because when we go the other way, everything will get tucked in. And I'm just focusing on keeping the shape a nice basic cylindrical shape. It's a little bit barrel shaped at the moment, but that doesn't matter. We're not doing the finishing touches yet. It'll be a while before you do that. But tying those knots will save you so much time. And then you are going through the surface and deeper into the wool. So we're not doing the surface felting here. We are pushing through to make sure that all that wool is stuck together in the middle. It's all tangled in on itself, and if you just go through the top with this, it's not going to work. And remember, stick around, because at the end of this I am going to show you, if you are still having issues with needle marks or getting a nice perfect finish, a great tip for quickly finishing and getting a brilliant top coat. Okay, so can you see where this is going now? So now we're going to, I'm just going to spread this out a little bit because I don't want it too thick. So I'm going to now wrap it around the other way. So it's not fiddly at all. It's really easy to do. So I'm going to, but I'm not going to go right till the end, to the end here. I'm just going to go so far. Just get those ends felted in. I think I'm using the 40 there. I want the 38. Don't want to break it, because it's very firm in there. And then what you can do is you can start teasing these edges around, and you see how that has actually begun to cover up all those edges. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go at a diagonal now. So I'm kind of going to turn that into that wool, because we want the whole piece covered. We don't want any lines. Let's just rectify that, pull that round there. Let's get that tucked in before we go any further. So you see that will prevent the need for any troubleshooting further down the line. Let's get this air out and continue to felt. Tap that on, then bring those edges in. I really hope you're enjoying the channel. I hope you're getting a lot out of it. I'm kind of diversifying into other areas of needle felting as well, which you may have noticed, just to keep it more interesting, keep it more interesting for me, keep it more interesting for you, and, you know, just give you as much creative input as you need or would like. Obviously, I can't cater for every single person, but I do try and keep the content interesting. Can you see now? So that is coming up, and now really, it's coming on really well. And when you press that is super firm in the middle. I'm just going to roll that in my hands, and we're just going to see if we can just get a little bit more of that cylinder shape, that ball shape. And see if you do that, how it just moves that shape, recreates that shape slightly, so then you can go at it again. And please be aware, there is no replacing time when you are doing this. If you want to do this in 5 minutes, then you do a small ball like the one we've just done. If you're wanting something bigger and you want that perfect finish, which people are always asking me about, then you have to commit some time. It's not just going to magically appear in your hands. Crafting isn't magic. It doesn't just suddenly happen. You have to work at it. Any craft. Just so happens that it's very quick to pick up needle felting. So you can quickly pick up the basics in the beginning, but that doesn't mean you're going to suddenly, a week on, be creating masterpieces. If you get that out of your head, it's just not going to happen. Doesn't work like that. Anything worth doing will take time. If it didn't take time, what would be the point? We'd all be good at stuff, and everyone would be good at everything, and then everyone would be really bored, uninspired, and just not bother. So see how that's coming along really nicely now. I'm going to give that another roll. And if you were making a cube, then what you would do is you would just flatten these sides as you went along. It's really easy to start with the round ball, and then before it gets too firm, start to shape it. And you can see how that would work really well. And that's all I've done with that. I've not measured it. It's not exact, but it just shows you how you can create different shapes, triangles, cubes. And see, that is really nicely coming along now. And we've still got these areas here, which are by no means smooth and flat yet. So I'm now going to my 40, which is a slightly bendy one, finer needle, and we're now going to work on the surface. So now this is where the time comes in. You're now going to tap around the entire piece, and you are going to just keep it moving, keep working until all those little ridges are filled in. Again, you can keep shaping it in your hand. And it's so mindful doing this. It reminds me of some weird TikTok trend. Yeah, it's mindful, thoughtful. But it really is. You can really lose yourself. And it's such a great way just to get out of your own flipping head now and then. Goodness me, I know I need to get out of mine all the time. And I'm sure we're all the same. The brain it's a complex thing that we quite often have no control over. So if we can just find something meditative, like just creating a shape, it doesn't have to be anything complex. You don't have to make an animal or, you know, a complex shape. Just work on your basic shapes. Practice the little things that you don't have to think about too much, that you know you can do. And you know that if you practice, you'll improve, but it doesn't take too much from the noggin, as they say in Yorkshire. And you see that's starting now to felt down nicely. And I would probably keep at this for about another 10 minutes at least. Because remember, I went from this to this. So you are looking at a good 10 minutes. This is slightly smaller than that one. And again, you can add more wool as well. So never start with too much. You can always add more. It's really easy to add more wool. But if you start with a load of wool, you can't remove it once you've felted it. Unless it's something like a limb on an animal, you can sort of pick that off. But the actual bulk of a piece of the main body, you can't. And remember, when you're making these, they are often the basic body shape for your animals, for your mushrooms, but particularly for animals, this will be the scaffolding that holds all of this together. So you've got to get this firm and correct. So even if you're not making this particular shape, if you're working on a body shape, it's still important to get it really nice and firm. Although probably not be so picky with the actual final finish, especially with this. This is a Shetland wool. So that's a lovely, and that's actually a wool top, believe it or not a carded wool, but it has a really lovely finish. There's, you know, no needle marks. That is a Shetland carded wool. So that's a Shetland Morit. Beautiful, beautiful wool. And that is a carded wool. But you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that really and the Shetland wool top when you've needle felted them. You probably get a slightly smoother finish on the actual Shetland wool top because it's such a really nice coarse wool. So if you've got wool tops, don't think you can't use them. Absolutely. I for the first couple of years, I didn't use anything but the natural animal wool tops. I love working with them, and I still do. You know, ask me anything in the comments. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you're having a problem with a specific area of your needle felting. I would love to hear, and I'd love to be able to help. I have a really excellent blog guide, the Felt Hub Ultimate Guide to Needle Felting. My lovely blog, and I say my lovely blog because my heart and soul's in that blog, and it's so beautifully laid out and easy to navigate. All the different categories and sections are there, and I've even put together a complete beginner start here section. So if you are a complete beginner, has everything there for you: where to start, where to get your tools from, my favourite suppliers, top tips. What happens when you lose your creative mojo? What happens, you know, when you haven't got the confidence to get started? It's all there. But really, the key is getting started. Now that's coming along nicely. Really pleased with actually how quickly that's come on. So I would probably go at that for, like I say, another 5-10 minutes. And it hasn't taken that long. However, there is a trick that I want to share with you, and I think it's a great tip. And that is to get a really perfect finish very quickly, which is what I have done with this chicken. So this chicken is a base of core wool, like I've done here, just a very simple shape. Carded bats. So this is the same as carded wool, but it's in sheets instead of long lengths. And it's usually that it would be that thickness. So what I've done is I've separated the layers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that off, and I'm going to give my ball that I've made a top layer of carded wool, just a really thin layer. Now this is, I believe this is Perendale, and this is a white natural carded Perendale, but it's the whitest of the carded whites that I have come across. So I think World of Wool have that. I'm not sure if Heidi Feathers does. If you just put in white carded Perendale, definitely World of Wool has it, because that's where this is from. But can you see when we lay that over the top, how beautiful and smooth that is already? And we are hardly going to touch this, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it all around to the bottom. So if you have an area of your project that is going to be covered or not visible, then pull it round to that area. In this case, it will all be, let's say it's at the bottom of your project where it's going to be sat, and you pull it round like so, and stretch it gently as you go, and don't felt in the visible areas, felt around the bottom. Such a brilliant tip, this. Can't recommend this enough. It has saved many a project and much of my sanity, to be honest, sometimes, because I can't imagine going over that entire piece and getting it to look that perfect without using this method. Pull off any loose, and it needs to be carded wool, this top layer, because it allows you to pull off any excess without distorting the shape or pulling anything you've already felted. And can you see, I'm just dragging that, and look at that finish. And then we can just go around again, get this, got a bit much there, so I can just pull a little bit off again. Tap those in, dragging in those sides. And if it's all going to be visible, then yes, clearly work on this section. But at least you've only got one section that does need the work, because the rest is all beautifully smooth. And if you've missed a bit, you can put another layer on. But you must go around and just tap it all gently, just to make sure that that is felted down. And what you've got now is a really firm shape that you can still add your details onto the top surface, like so, but without losing the shape of the face. Because if you are working on something like that, you are just going to lose the shape when you start pressing in with your needle, and then all your detail will get lost in this wool. And there you go. I reckon about 5 more minutes work on that, another roll, and that will be ready. So you just go around these little areas here, go diagonally, always in a straight line. You'll end up with something like that, just a bit smaller. That is the wool dryer ball. You really can't tell the difference. That's easier to work on and cheaper, because these are quite expensive, especially nearer to Christmas. If you're going to buy them, get them in the summer, because they are cheaper. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you really enjoy the content of the channel. Hit your notifications so that you don't miss any of these fantastic tutorials.